So I think it's hugely consequential. I think it's extremely exciting. And I think Mark Andreessen said over the weekend that it was one of the great gifts to mankind, in a sense, offering up an open source model. The democratization of AI is going to be absolutely fantastic for all those smaller companies that want to build their own small models to do their own small businesses. So in that sense, it's absolutely fantastic. I don't think it necessarily takes away the business models of the much bigger companies. I don't think it destroys NVIDIA. Because I think there will be a constant need for more and more compute power. There's never been an environment where we've needed less compute. So I think we can safely say that the compute growth will go on. NVIDIA will still thrive in that environment. But I think what you saw yesterday in the markets was a very fair reset of the risk-reward between the makers of AI and the users of it.
It does feel as though we're at a tipping point, and whether the CapEx model that we've seen from these big Mag 7 stocks needs to change, because we now have new evidence that something can be done on the cheap. But there was also another aspect that came up, which was something I was mentioning earlier yesterday, about whether American companies would trust Chinese technology. And I noticed Wedbush picked up on that, saying, look, there's no way 2,000 major US companies are going to lean into this Chinese technology. Maybe if it's developed by an American company down the track, yes, but at this point, they're not going to put large amounts of data into DeepSeek. So what does that mean in terms of how we think about these stocks that have sold off, and whether there is a value point at this stage?
Before Mark answers that, can I just relay a conversation that Arjun had with... you said that, you're right, they don't like it because it's Chinese maybe. I can understand that, your concerns about it. But you said that there's other companies are now going to run the whole model because it's open source.
Which is my point, right?
Yeah.
With other
So it doesn't have to be Chinese, it's open source technology. So as soon as it's out there, it's ubiquitous technology.
Which is part of the question, whether there's a time lag now between other American companies picking it up.
But it won't be American or Chinese, that's the whole point. It will be ubiquitous, it will be global technology.
Yeah, and it won't necessarily be based in Chinese servers and on China technology, and that's where the open source question comes in, I think.
You need to differentiate here. If you're using the open source model in a desktop environment, you aren't attached to Chinese servers. If you are downloading the app, and it was the highest downloaded app, it's actually exceeded ChatGPT in terms of app downloads, then you are operating on Chinese servers. So there's a very clear and important difference here. So in the world of business and the way entrepreneurs will use it, they won't be dependent on having their data sitting in China at all.
So what does it mean in terms of what we saw, the selling yesterday? Do you think this is what Wedbush called a golden opportunity to get back into technology stocks, or would you be somewhat cautious here?
So as I said earlier, I think it was a really powerful, sort of quite instantaneous repricing of risk. 20% down for the makers of AI. And a lot of, as you said earlier, a lot of the users of AI, like Salesforce is a great example, were up yesterday. So we actually had the biggest outperforming day of the S&P equal weight versus the S&P since 2020. And it's a sign to me of this repricing of risk, and the market maybe getting a little bit of a wake-up call and realizing that it isn't as obvious as you think. It isn't just a case of buying more
I love it
NVIDIA.
because it's like